Spoiler warning for Deltarune, especially the Chapter 5 reroute. Not necessary, but go watch Device Theory. Presenting Lake Palace Theory. It's June 24th, 2025. Chapter 5 is dropped. We've got a nice fun chapter where the supposed deeper and less whimsical final chapters of the game in the, hopefully, near future. Chapter 5 was a really fun chapter. A lot of nice callbacks for Undertale and jumps from Chapter 1, and I think everyone more or less really liked it. Unfortunately, on one hand, we got a light story with really fun characters and gameplay. On the normal route, we got the weird route and whatever happened there. Before we go into that, final spoiler warning. Here we go. Basic recap, right? The well has very good dialogue, loses her mind, talks about how Des left. We're going to go into that in a bit because I think this is a very important distinction and how the whole theory is going to be based off of Des left, not captured. Noelle feels that she's trapped in a cycle, is unable to break free, where nothing ever happens, and she wants to do something crazy, like grow wings. Eventually taking Kristen's hands and walking into with the intent of just walking to the other side through sheer determination and proceeding. So most of you know, there are technically two endings to this. One, where you just don't mash fast enough, like I did on accident, not knowing, and you just go back to the normal route where nothing ever happens. And then the normal route, screen turns to white. You get this little TV screen. And supposedly, we're not going to get anything until Chapter 7. There is no Chapter 6 weird route. Which is, very interesting on its own. But, what does this mean exactly? What happened at the end of Chapter 5? Where are we? What's going to happen for Chapter 7? Well, there's Drown Theory. We just died. And I think that's fair. It's a decent theory. Maybe our soul found the vessel or something. Maybe we're piloting somebody else. I feel like that'd be pretty weird though. Just feels very. Weird rap's already pretty weird, but I feel like that's. I just don't think it makes sense, and it's kind of basic and it's kind of boring. But because they're down there for a while, it feels like I don't know. It doesn't make sense. But here's the real idea. Des left. Where did she go? Let's go back to the dialogue, right? I haven't seen anybody talk about this. Or if they have, it's very basic. Acknowledging that she said this. Nothing actually comes upon this. Right? Des left. She wasn't kidnapped. She wasn't stolen away. She didn't get lost. She didn't get trapped. She voluntarily left for whatever reason. And I think that's very, very important. Because there's two things that we can come from this. One, Noelle just being stupid. She misspoke. Maybe she doesn't understand. Maybe her parents just didn't tell her the full truth. Maybe it's when parents are like, oh yeah, puppy ran away to the farm. That kind of shit. But that would be really, really weird. And the whole town is in on this? I don't think so. Which, of course, leads us to our second exception. Des told Noelle that she was leaving, and possibly where she went. With this idea, we can have that Des is not the knight, she's not in the bunker, and I think I know where she is. I think that she is definitely still tied to the incident that Asgore is always talking about, even though he won't describe what actually happened. But I think he knows. And I don't think Des is completely trapped, completely kidnapped, completely brainwashed. I can I don't think that's this crazy. I don't think it's that crazy. She left. She told Noelle where she was going. She did that voluntarily. Right? Let's just move on from that, right? I swear I'm getting somewhere. She left home. Where did she go? She's at the bottom of the lake. And she's not dead. Here's my theory. with hometown, right? We have the lake. We were crossing the lake. We were probably like around here, maybe here, when the cutscene ends. Now, there's two things. With a lake, they weren't just swimming across, they were going down through the bottom of the lake. Now, it is certainly possible, maybe technically, that they somehow kept walking to the other side of the lake, and that's where they end up, if they're alive, right? I think they're in the bottom, where the depths are. This could technically tie into toilet theory with the depths and the sewers, all that stuff. I think Des went down here, through the code, and made an ice palace, right? Stay with me here. Des is very stereotypically, a rule breaker. She's like punk rock, she's alternative, she's got all these musical instruments, she's got, she's very like tomboy with like more sports and stuff. It sounds like, and I think that she had similar feelings to Noelle, where she was sick of hometown. She wanted to leave. There's only one way out of hometown, and it's right here. And it's, very easily, not always blocked off. It's very easy for that to be the case. There's one way out, and if it's blocked, you're just stuck here, And this town is very small. Like, there's like one apartment complex, and like 1, 2, 3, 4 other houses. Like, that's tiny. There's no one here. No one lives here. It's very easy to want to get out of here. My idea is that they went to the lake, somehow found out about the device. They found out about the limitations, because if this is a device, then there's nothing out here. This is the entirety of the game. There's nothing else beyond that. And once you realize that, you're going to want to break out. There's probably always going to be a reason. It's like those Lego games. They're like, come back later. Oh, bridge is closed. There's always going to be a reason. There's always going to be a reason you can't leave. There's always going to be a reason. Right? Maybe there's college for Azrael. Maybe there is. There's no reason to think either way, because we just don't know enough. You know what we do know? There's a lake, and you can go in it, and there has to be an endpoint, because there has to be some kind of, there's a literal open world inside the lake. Break the code. There has to be something here. I believe it's a break in the code, in the device, through the depths, to combine toilet theory and device theory into one, under the lake, in the depths. And I think that there is an ice palace. Why is there an ice palace? Think about it. You take Noelle through a body of water to go find the missing objective on the weird route. Why? What is the point of Deltarune? Find Des. I don't think everyone agrees with this. I believe that's the point of the game. Besides, the prophecy. Because there's two different narratives of the game. There's the Light World narrative, and I think that's finding Des. Dark World is obviously, the prophecy, stopping the roaring, stopping the night, yada yada yada. Light World, it has to be Des. There's two different narratives. They're separate characters. Obviously, the divide is breaking with, Asgore getting kidnapped, Toriel almost getting kidnapped, Undyne getting kidnapped, and they're getting taken to the bunker, and so that, barrier is breaking. However, there's still separate missions. I think Weird Route is kind of breaking that connection. Or at least, maybe in a different way than Neutral Route will. Maybe it will. Maybe it's the same idea. Des is too important. This isn't like, oh man, this is traumatic event, and then we move on with our lives, this is so gripping on all the main characters' important lives. Noelle can't move on. Chris can't move on. Asgore can't move on, right? Carol can't move on. We need to find where Des is. Maybe she's alive. Maybe she's not. I think she found refuge from whatever was ailing her, haunting her, in the bottom of the lake. Why why would Noelle talk about going to the bottom of the lake? It's such a weird thing to do. Not the bottom of the lake. Across the lake. Why would you go there? Just because you talked about it when you were kids? What is Noelle always talking about that Chris was doing with her when they were kids? They were also with Azrael and December. They were a group of 4. It wasn't like Chris and Noelle were always hanging out together. Maybe they were after Des and Azrael left. But like, it sounded like for the majority of their childhood, the 4 of them were always together, connected. If Noelle was talking about it with Chris, that means she was talking about it with Des. I think whether Des literally told her or not, I think Des implied to Noelle that she was going to the lake. Maybe Noelle doesn't even fully realize it because she doesn't seem to actually know what happened to Des and the way that she talks about her and references her, and the way that she seems to have some kind of memory block alongside Chris with the shelter. I think Des is at the bottom of the lake. I think we need to find Des, get her out, and bring her to the shelter. This also, I almost forgot about this. It works perfectly with the song, because if Des is at the bottom of the lake, then she'd probably be playing music, right? I mean, that's not like some crazy stretch. I'm definitely not the first person to say that. It definitely works though, because there's only so many things that can make a song at the bottom of the lake. What else is there? It has to be Des, right? I feel like most people think it's Des, whether she's the guy or she's the person with the code or whatever. I think for this theory, that it kind of has to be that Des is at the bottom of the lake and she's not the knight. She's about the code. I think she's the girl in the code, talking to Hampton, all that stuff. I don't think that she's a knight. She could be. I don't think so. I think this has more evidence for like a Mauve knight or whatever. Not that I'm the biggest fan of that either. This isn't a knight video. I could make one in the future. Sure it has to be a literal castle. I don't think that it has to be, like a card castle or a flower castle. Well, it certainly could be. I think it's more the idea of maybe not anymore, but it was a refuge for Des. Maybe she wasn't always hiding out here. It could very well be like a fun base, though. That's kind of a weird thing, because the idea behind this is that it's kind of like, spoiler warning for Stranger Things, it's kind of like the gate at the bottom of the lake in season 4, where they're like diving down, but it like upside down, right into the upside down. You know what I'm saying? Like, it has to be a different world. Maybe like they fall out of hometown, they go into like a dark world, the depths, or whatever is down there that transports them out of like traditional hometown. They're not like literally sitting at the bottom of the lake with like a snorkel or just like fucking dead. I don't think that makes sense. This is Des's refuge, whether she's been there or not. She's trapped there, she's stuck there. We're gonna find her there. I guarantee it. No, I don't. I don't know why I said that. That's my thing. We're gonna bypass chapter 6 because the whole point of chapter 6 is whether we actually get Des or not in the normal route. It's going to be about finding Des. We're going to find out where Des is. Maybe we'll actually reach her in chapter 7 in the normal route, but because that's the whole point of the game, at least that's what I'm speculating, it doesn't matter what we do in chapter 6. That's why we can just skip straight to it. I don't think that like chapter 7 weird route and chapter 7 normal route are going to take place at like the exact same time frame. And I don't know what days Deltarune takes place, of which each day of the week. I think weird route is going to take place like earlier in the week than normal route. Let's say like normal route is like Tuesday at 7 p.m. I think that like weird route would be on Monday or like whatever day before that, because we don't need chapter 6. It's not like we're just going to be like in limbo during the events of chapter 6 and then it goes chapter 7. It's just that we only need one more chapter. That's what I'm saying. We only need, it doesn't have to literally be a 7th chapter and we're just like in limbo for chapter 6, though it could be. There's just only one more chapter left of content, and that's why Toby's saving it for the final thing. We need Des, we take her to the shelter or whatever, fight Gaster, blah 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 blah. I'm not here to debate the ending. I'm not here to debate what Des is going to do. This is just what I think happens after chapter 5. I think go down into the lake, some kind of ice palace, literally or parallel, because Ice Palace has to mean something, right? It has to mean something. Like, the shelter is obviously the shelter. The city is obviously Cyber City. Noelle is obviously the Ice Mage. The bird is obviously Bird Lady. And Roots, this also ties in with Roots. This has to be where the deer is. It's not Noelle. Yeah, okay, I guess it could be. But it's Des. We're finding Des through the lake. We're going to get her out. We're going into... We're going to fight like the E-Ram or whatever in Chapter 7, the real version. And we're going to beat Deltarune with Des, with Noelle, all the way around. Is this theory perfect? No. Am I skipping over a bunch of stuff? Yes. Is it a standalone theory? No. It's taking a bunch of actually good theories and putting in my own program. But, yeah, go watch Device Theory.